We are back with another subject, emergency response planning and disaster management. Next slide, please. So here in emergency response plan, first of all, we should understand what is emergency and what is a response and how to plan. So here we are focusing on these things. What is emergency? Emergency is an urgent, unexpected, and usually dangerous, not always, usually dangerous situation that can pose on immediate risk to health, life, property, or environment and require immediate action. Here, emergency needs immediate action. Emergency is a situation that will risk to health, life, property, environment, everything. So emergency needs immediate attention also. So here we should understand the context where we are doing all these things. So what is emergency? So first of all, you should understand what is emergency. Can anybody say other than this, any other explanation on emergency? An emergency is an urgent, unexpected. So each word has its own weightage and usually dangerous. So it is an urgent situation, it's an unexpected situation, it's a dangerous situation, and that needs immediate attention to reduce the risk to health, life, property, or environment. So everything is covered there. It can be either the risk to health or risk to the life or risk to the property or risk to the environment. Okay, clear? So emergency needs immediate action. So we should be focusing on that. Here our response, what is the response? Next slide, please. Response. What is the response? Response is a reaction, answer or reply to something that has happened or being said, like a question or a letter or an event. Here, as we consider the workplace, it's an event. So response is a reaction to an event. Some event has happened and how we are responding to that. So that is the response. So here emergency, what we explained, here the response is also explained. Next slide, please. Emergency response planning is the proactive development of strategies. So here it is a development of strategies, but it is proactive, and procedures to address a potential disaster. So it is to address a potential disaster, and we are doing some proactive development of strategies and procedures. That is what we call it as emergency response planning. So here, actually what is happening is that when an emergency situation happens, people will be in panic. So to address the panic, if you are going on panic, we will not be able to do the things in the right way. So to avoid that, we will make a pre-planning on the situation. And we can assume that this can be the situation, that can be the situation, like that. We can assume emergency. What all emergencies can happen in such a situation, how we should respond, and what all things we should prepare for that. So this is what we are doing in the emergency response planning. So there are certain methods which we can go through that. Next slide, please. See, need of an emergency response plan is to save lives and protection of the human beings, minimize damage to property and assets, continuity of the business ensured, and compliance to legal and other regulatory requirements assured. So this is what the need of an emergency response plan. Here, the item C, just so you see, continuity of the business ensured. So when a emergency plan is properly drafted and practiced, it can ensure your business continuity. So when the business is continuous, then only the all other things can be happen. So here business continuity is ensured if you have a good emergency response plan. And in case of an emergency, if your response plan is proper, you can save the life and protect the human being from their danger and minimize the damage to the property and environment. Then, if your emergency response plan is proper and it is right, then the compliance to legal and other regulatory requirements will be assured, because we will be addressing these requirements also in an emergency response plan. Thank you. Next slide, please. Planning. What is actually planning? Planning is effective planning involves creating detailed emergency response plan. In short, we call it as ERP, that outlines the individual role, responsibility, and authority. First of all, in an emergency situation, there will not be anybody to direct you to do certain jobs. So here, we should be very clearly specifying that what is the individual's role, responsibility, and authority. If we are not specifying that, anybody can do any job, anything, and things can be worst. So that situation should not happen. So this should not hamper the our normal hierarchy also. So that's why we are putting in detail in the plan that what is the individual's role and what is his responsibility and how far he can go, what is his authority. So this has to be specified in the ERP. Now, next slide, please. Planning to ensure, that means when an emergency happens, emergency can be in the office, in the plant, in the process area, it can be anywhere. So normal operation will be disturbed. So to tackle that, we should have an emergency center. Either it is a permanent one or a temporary one with all facilities to contact outside and communicate to the legal and other bodies. So the emergency response center can assemble and control the crisis situation. Here, we should ensure that we should have an emergency contact list really available at of the emergency response center, where all facilities are available to contact outside. Next one is that emergency response center can be a permanent one setup or a temporary arrangement, but ensure it has all the facilities, communication facilities there, and other document preparation facility, everything should be there. And there should be a written and practiced, trained and practiced evacuation procedure to ensure quick evacuation and efficient rescue actions during a crisis. When a crisis happens, the people will be working inside the plant. So we should rescue the people, evacuate the people to a safe assembly point or safe place. So for that, there should be a procedure, and the procedure will be a part of this ERP. And that procedure should be written, trained, and practiced and made it foolproof. So that should be the evacuation procedure. Next slide, please. Employees to be trained well to address and attend such situations without any supervision or direction. That is why in the previous slide we said that the role, responsibility, authority of individuals has to be mentioned clearly. So, in an exigency situation or in an emergency situation, it is very clear that the people can go panic. So, if they are trained on these situations, then they will not go panic. And the people will be knowing what each individual has to do. So, they are trained in that way. So, they know how to do it, where to do, what to do, all these things. So, they will be working without any supervision or directions because they are trained on that. And that's why we in the earlier slide we said that this evacuation procedure should be trained properly. Okay, so training is a must. It is not that just like that anybody can do that. Everybody has to be trained well. There will be groups of people who is doing these things. The at least minimum 4 groups should be there. One group will be working on the firefighting, that is the crisis control. Next team will be working on the evacuation. Evacuation means people guiding the people to the safe point, safe place. So there are certain methods and techniques to be adopted. So third one is the first aid team. First aid team means they will be looking for any injured person and they will be given the first aids, and if it is needed to send them to hospital, they will be doing those things. So they will be focusing only on that one. And fourth team is, here we are saying that a business continuity is ensured. So the repairs and recovering will be done by this fourth team. They are focusing on how to restart the process, how to restart the plant, and how to continue with the production and the business. So they will be focusing on that. Here, there will not be anybody to direct them because they are trained on that situation. Trained. How we are giving the training? It is actually, we call it as mock drills. We will be creating a situation where some emergency is there and we will be operating. Then there will we will be doing the mock drills. During the mock drill, we will be observing which is right, which is wrong, what went wrong, who was at fault. All these things will be identified, observed, noted, and that will be discussed among the team. And next mock drill, this will be corrected. So continuous improvement is ensured through these corrections and mock drills. And what we are saying is that continuous mock drill is a must. At least once in 3 months, we should conduct a mock drill and ensure that the situation is well under control. Because we should be knowing people may change, situation may change, process may change. So at least once in 3 months, we should do a mock drill. So mock drill is the training aspect. From there only we are understanding how much we are trained on this ERP. So ERP has to be practiced and the people should be get trained through mock drills. Next slide, please. Here you see the key components of the emergency response plan. That is ERP, there are certain key components. One is that a risk assessment. Second is the emergency team and role, responsibility and activity, communication protocol, evacuation procedures, containment and mitigation, resource availability, first aid and medical responses, training and mock drills. Next slide, please. Here you see that key components of emergency response planning, we are addressing this risk assessment. What is that? ERP, what is the risk assessment? So here we are identifying the potential hazards such as natural disaster, can be hurricane, earthquake, etc. And man-made incidents like industrial accidents, fire, etc. So here we are identifying the risks that can happen. So that is the risk assessment. And this will be added in the HERA register where in case of an emergency, what all risks can happen. So that will be there in the HERA register. Next slide, please. Here is a development of plan. You are creating a detailed emergency response plan that document specific actions, roles, and responsibilities for various scenarios and for various individuals. Here, this cannot be the same for every industry, and even in the same industry, every department. So what we are doing is that we are creating a detailed emergency response plan, and that will be documented because there is we are mentioning here there's a specific actions, so roles and responsibilities of various scenarios. So this has to be written down, documented, practiced, and perfected. Perfection through mock drills only we can perfect. If some flaws are there, that can be perfected. Okay, next slide, please. Here, it is a responsibility and authority, teams, roles, and responsibility. So, clearly defining who is responsible for what during an emergency, including an incident commander and other key personnel. Here, in case of an emergency, even everybody is trained and experts in their roles and responsibilities. Still, somewhere, some key persons are needed to address the commanding. So that is incident commander. So he will be the contact person for understanding the what is the status of the incident. So there should be an incident commander who is aware of all the situations. Okay. Next slide, please. Planning communication protocol. Here, it is very tricky one. Communication. Nowadays, we have the cell phone with everybody, with the camera also. Now, anybody can take photo and send it outside, saying some his own comments or her own comments, which may lead to a real conflict and confusing communications. So, any communication going out of the compound should be through one individual only who is responsible. So there should be a protocol, communication protocol, who should contact outside and communicate on the incident. So either it is to the media or to the regulatory authority, whichever it may be, the same person should be answering to those queries. So here we should establish reliable methods for internal coordination among staff and the external communication with emergency services and regulatory authorities and public. Here, otherwise, what will happen? It will be a confusion and panic situation, and you know that all the employees have relatives in and around the plant. If somebody gets a information that some accident happened in the plant, people will rush. They will be gathering at the gate, and not only that, some people will enter the plant also. And the guy who came from outside will not be knowing what is the situation in the plant, and this is another suicidal attempt. So that should not happen. Hence, what we are saying is the communication should be perfect. And not only that, in case of an emergency, first instruction to the security is that close the door first. Don't allow anybody from outside to come inside until otherwise our incident controller gives permission. Because fire force can come, police can come, regulatory authorities can come. They should be permitted. But at the same time, general public should not be permitted to come inside because that will lead to a confusion and all problems. So that should be avoided because here we are focusing to address the controlling of emergency situation, whereas when the public comes, situation will be changed. So such situation should not arise. That's why the communication protocol has to be spelled out clearly. Who will say what to whom? That should be very clear. To regulatory authority, who will communicate? To public, who will communicate? To the emergency supporting services, who will communicate? To police, who will communicate? To fire force, who will communicate? These things has to be very clearly spelled out, and that protocol has to be followed properly because there should be a responsible person who holds the communication perfectly. So that is what we are saying here. Planning a communication protocol that should be written in our ERP also. Who will say what to who? Okay. So the communication is a critical part of the ERP. Any miscommunication can lead to another emergency. So such situation should not arise. Okay. Now next slide, please. Next. Here, response planning and evacuation procedures. Emergency response planning. Here, this evacuation procedures mentioning the method of evacuation is prepared and practiced by the identified teams, including the designated routes to safe assembly point. The availability of all people at safe assembly point should match with all people came in and stay inside at the time of incident. So evacuation is has certain purposes. One is that the people are moved from the dangerous situation to safe point. Second, we are taking the head count and ensure that everybody is outside and safe. Otherwise, our first aid team will go around and find out if any injured persons are there. That is there. So evacuation is the key activity to ensure that we are addressing all people inside the plant at the time of the incident. So evacuation has a procedure and it is being trained and practiced. And the practice is done. First, the training will be given, then practicing will be done through mock drills. So mock drill only makes the evacuation procedure perfect. Once we are doing the mock drill, then only we will be knowing what is missing, what is not in line with the requirement. So those things can be corrected and the mock drill will be perfecting the procedure. Next slide, please. Containment and mitigation. So by saying containment and mitigation means actually what is an emergency situation that has to be contained and controlled. That is what we are looking here. For that, actually, we have a team called, we can say it as a firefighting team if it is a fire situation. So they are trained on such situations to contain and mitigate the situation, the emergency situation. So they will do all the things like shut off procedure, because there will be a procedure of how to shut off the system, and everything will be shut off procedure to be practiced to control the event if needed, implementing safety measures to limit further damages. Because here, two conditions are to be addressed. One is that stopping the emergency. Second one is that because of that, there should not be any other damage to the system. So these things has to be addressed. Then this team, these people will be trained on that. So they will be doing the required thing, and that will be observed. And if some problem they notice, that can be corrected in the next time. That means it will be corrected before the next incident. That is what we are looking. So containment and mitigation is then that is a core activity where the system has to rectify why this emergency situation arose. Okay. Next slide, please. Planning resource availability. When an emergency happens, definitely there will be some loss. So some resources is needed. And to bring back the plan to operation, we need some other requirements also, such as some resources is needed. So ensure that the available necessary equipments, specialized tools and materials are available and accessible when needed in the emergency. So when this emergency situation arises, we need to do some activity for mitigating and containing that emergency. And for that, we need some equipments, specialized tools, materials, and ensure that it is available. So as an emergency preparedness, we should have all these things readily available when in case of an emergency. So that is what we are looking for. Here, we have to have some emergency preparedness also. This is emergency response plan. So emergency response plan is supported by another emergency preparedness. In case of an emergency, what all things is needed, what all materials is needed, what all gadgets are needed, what all special tools are needed, those things has to be planned in advance, and it should be made available in case of an emergency where we can use it. So here, emergency response plan is supported by an emergency preparedness also. Next slide, please. Medical response. It is very clear that in an emergency situation, some injuries can also happen. When an emergency, when an injury happens, we need to support that individual with medical assistance. Something we can do through first aids, something we will not be able to do. So we have to move this injured person to a good medical support, or otherwise we should give some first aid and move him to the medical support. So these things has to be done. So for that, we will be having a team of people who are trained sufficiently to do the first aid. So the first aid, by doing the first aid, it should not be another injury. So we should train the people in such a way that they are capable of doing the first aids to the people, to the injured people. So here we should have a team of people who are sufficiently trained and have practical knowledge on first aid, and that those team only will be addressing this medical response condition. Next slide, please. Training and mock drills. Here again, regular training to be imparted on practicing the plan, that is ERP, to ensure everyone knows their role and responsibility in executing the procedure during the crisis. When a crisis comes, people should be ready to address that crisis, face that crisis, mitigate that crisis, contain that crisis, do the necessary first aids, do the necessary communication, do the necessary activities, and for that, sufficient supporting materials, tools should be available. So here, when we are doing the mock drill, we are ensuring all these things and training the people also. When doing a mock drill, we will be having some observers and they will be noting down what all things went wrong, either on the procedure or implementation of the procedure. So these points will be addressed and corrected in the before the next mock drill, and we will again do the mock drill. Then we will find out what is effective, what is changes, what went wrong, and that will be observed, noted, corrected. So this is a cycle. This cycle continuously going on, and the training is also continuous, and the people will be getting perfectly trained on these situations to address an emergency. So the crisis management is this. Here again we are saying that there should be a supporting emergency preparedness. Emergency preparedness means in case of an emergency, how we should be prepared to implement the ERP, that is emergency response plan. Okay. Next slide, please. In case of an emergency, we should ensure the availability of necessary supplies, equipment, and trained personnel to manage the incident. That's why we are saying that we should have different teams who are trained well and who knows their roles and responsibility and authority, and they will personally address the emergency situation without any supervision or direction. So when we are making a team, the team should be sufficient to manage the situation. See, every day, everybody will not be available. Some people will be on leave, some people will be on the different shifts. And in that situation, we should ensure that what is the minimum required people, and those people should be available in any moment of the round the clock, and there's that much sufficient people should be trained on that area. So here we should ensure the availability of necessary supplies, equipment, and trained personnel to manage an incident. Next slide, please. Benefit of a well-prepared ERP. If the ERP is well prepared, we will get the following benefits. One is enhance organizational resilience. That means it will improve the ability to withstand and recover from the crisis. If an emergency situation happens, there will be crisis. So if we have a good ERP system, that will help us in enhancing the organization resilience. It will improve the ability to withstand such situations of crisis and recover from that crisis. Okay. Next is that reduce chores. Provide clear instructions because it is legible, preventing confusion. There will not be any confusion, and aiding in quick decisive actions. Quick action, and that is decisive action also. It is not that loose talk. Okay. Third one is protect reputation. Demonstrate a commitment to safety and responsible operation. So here the reputation is that ensure the reputation. So when an ERP is prepared well, it will give a good reputation to the organization. It will be having decisive actions and quick actions, and it will improve the ability to withstand and recover from crisis. The crisis in a crisis, how to come out, that is very clearly spelled out. Next slide, please. Okay. Till this point, we were discussing about the emergency response planning and emergency preparedness. Now, the participants, what is that you understood on this? Can you say in a sentence or two, what is that you understood? Emergency preparedness plan, response planning, and emergency preparedness. Hello? Or you can put it in the chat box. Because when we are changing the subject, we should know that how far you are able to catch up. No chat box, no response. Are anybody there? Oh, some people are not there. It's only 77. Yes. So there is no response. Okay. So till this time, I was talking about the emergency response plan, and you people are not responding. Or some confusion is there on this. Just take the some example like in an emergency situation, how we are behaving. Take the case of a road accident. Nobody plans for an accident, but it happens. So it's an emergency. So in a road accident, what will happen? What do you feel? How you will be managing? So like that, it's in an emergency situation. How will you manage that situation? That is what we addressed in the ERP. But it is little more systematic, and we explained the ways and methods, training, and perfecting those things we have mentioned. So nobody is responding. So emergency response is not effective. That what I say. What I understood is that the emergency response is not effective. Is it so? Mm-hmm. Something is coming. It's not effective. Any suggestion from your end? Doctor, any suggestion from your end? Please. Then, okay. Now we'll move to the next one, disaster management. What is disaster? It's a sudden accident or a natural catastrophe that causes great damage or loss of life. So disaster is a sudden thing. It happens suddenly. It's an accident. Either it is natural, or it's a man-made thing also, which results in great damage or loss of life or loss of property or whatever it may be. So disaster is a disturbing activity. Okay. So a sudden accident or a natural catastrophe that causes great damage or loss of life. Next slide, please. Management part. So disaster management is a subject. Now we explained about what is disaster. Now management. What is management? Management is the process of planning, organizing, leading, controlling resources, including human, financial, and materials to achieve specific organizational goals effectively and efficiently. അതിൽ പറയാത്തൊന്നുമില്ല. Everything is covered. Okay. So that is management. Okay. Next slide, please. Disaster management is the organized process of preparing for recovering from natural and human made disasters to minimize their negative impact. We are addressing the negative impact on people, property, and the environment. Environment ബാധിക്കുന്നതാവാം, property loss ആവാം, people effect ചെയ്യുന്നതാവാം. അങ്ങനെ these situations has to be addressed. So disaster management is the organized process. It is the organized process of preparing for recovering from natural and human-made disasters. So that is disaster management. Next slide, please. You can see the pictorial representation of this disaster management cycle. You can see that preparation, response, recovery, and mitigation. That is how it is going, right? This is only pictorial representation of what we said in the disaster management definition. Next slide, please. Yes. Disaster management cycle. This cycle consists of ongoing phases. Mitigation. Mitigation means actions taken to reduce or prevent the likelihood or impact of a disaster before it occurs, often involving risk analysis. So mitigation is that. Mitigation is the action taken to reduce or prevent the likelihood or impact of a disaster before it occurs. So often involving risk analysis. Risk analysis also we have to see. Next slide, please. Next one is the preparedness. So developing plans, training personnel, and acquiring resources to effectively respond to a disaster. That is the preparedness. Earlier in the emergency response, also we said that emergency preparedness. What is the role of emergency preparedness? Here also the same thing is disaster management cycle. There is one activity called as preparedness. In preparedness, what is it? It is developing a plan for training personnel and acquiring resources to effectively respond to a disaster. So any disaster, when we are mentioning that disaster, the preparedness should be in line with mitigating the or preventing the this disaster. Next slide. Response. Here also you can see the response. There also there was response. Something, both are in line. The immediate and ongoing actions taken during an emergency to contain the threat, minimize the damage, and save the lives. And this was the same thing where we talked about the emergency response plan. Okay. Next slide, please. Disaster management cycle next is the recovery. The process of restoring operations and affected areas to a functional state after the immediate crisis. So recovery is that we are putting back the operations, back to operations. That is actually the process of restoring operations and affected areas to be to a functional state. Wherever the function was distorted, that has to be brought into a functional state after the immediate crisis. ഒരു ക്രൈസിസ് ഉണ്ടായതിന്റെ തൊട്ട് ഇതായിട്ട് ചെയ്യുന്നതാണ്. So that is a recovery. So we are recovering to the situation to operational situation. Okay, next slide. I hope this is it. Here we have explained about the ERP, emergency preparedness, emergency response plan, and disaster management. Okay. Now, if there is any queries,
Participants, if you have any queries, you can ask now.
or put in the chat box. You can read it.
Okay, sir.
Along with that, I would like to know individuals' feedback on these two sessions through chat box, and madam can collect it and give back to me.
Okay, sir. Sir, one question. Sir, is
Yes.
it answer one question? How much effective is disaster management plan?
See, it will be highly effective if we are thorough about the type of disaster, because when we are doing the risk assessment, we should be able to see all phases of the disaster. Then only we will be having a good plan. See, we should know the situation, then only we will be having a good plan. So disaster management plan will be good only when the disaster is understood perfectly. Because it is actually the disaster is don't have any structured view, structured situation. So we should understand that. Yes. Next question.
Sir, next question. Suppose in mining, during rain, when the surface of mined soil is damp, how could the workers be alerted to reform
No,
risk?
not clear.
Okay, sir.
See,
Suppose,
sound is feeble.
sir, suppose in mining, during rain, when the surface of mined soil is damp, how could the workers be alerted to reform risk analysis? Is it clear, sir?
Not clear.
Okay.
The voice is breaking.
Okay.
Can
Sir,
you put it?
it's in the chat box.
During raining,
During rain, when the surface of mined soil is damp, how could the workers be alerted to reform risk analysis?
actually, if it is an open cast mining, their announcement system will be there. If it's an underground mining, there will be some communication arrangements will be there. With that, we can do it. And we are developing that depending on the situation.
Sir, next question. Is there any limitations in disaster management?
We cannot fix up any limitations for that because the disaster itself, we don't know what is the quantification.
Next question. What are the key difference between the preparedness and mitigation phases of disaster management cycle?
What is the key differences?
Differences between preparedness and mitigation phases of disaster management cycle.
See, here actually the mitigation is that what happened, we are correcting it. Whereas the preparedness or the response preparedness is that what we are assuming the situations and preparing an action plan, how to go about on mitigating these things. So one is a plan, the other one is the activity. Yeah.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir. Another question. What will be the biggest disaster management challenges in the next decade? What will be the biggest disaster management challenges in the next decade?
Disaster actually, now you know that the fight between the countries, and actually it will be for water. Potable water availability will be a issue, and the disaster developing on base of that will be the biggest one in the near future. Either it can be a this one war or something. Yes. Any further questions?
Sir,
Ah,
sir, I think no further questions in the chat box. Okay, dear participants, if you have any queries,
any question on the chat box?
no, no, sir, no question.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, then shall we wind up the session, sir?
No, if this participant don't have any queries, yes,
No,
we will wait.
okay, sir.
So
Okay.
thank you all for the patient listening. Thanks a lot,
Okay.
and thank you.
Okay. Thank you, sir,
Yeah.
for the informative session. Your clear explanation and valuable insight have truly helped us learn and grow.